This is Shinobi on the Commodore C64. Big fan of the arcade game. Had it on the ZX Spectrum while I was growing up on the 1-8K, which had a lovely rendition of the arcade soundtrack. Played the Amstrad version, not a big fan of that, despite a lot of Amstrad owners swearing by it. I don't know, to me it just felt a bit so did the Spectrum version, come to think of it. The Master System version is great, so this is just to see what the Commodore 64 version plays like. So let's give it a bash. Right, so no in-game music, which is a shame because as the game is loading up there's a lovely SID rendition of the first level's music, but I'm guessing probably memory constraints that the music isn't included. You can only seem to fire 2 shurikens at a time. I'm not too sure if that was the case on the arcade game, I can't remember. And one thing I've just noticed trying to jump up here is if you press up and fire at the same time, the jump up onto the higher level doesn't work. Yeah, you have to hold the fire button down and then press up. It might not seem much of a complaint, but you know, when there's a lot of action happening and you need to get up to the second level or back down again very quickly, I've got a feeling that might cause problems because yeah, it just feels a bit strange, and obviously holding the fire button down for, you know, a couple of seconds, isn't as quick as just pressing up and fire at the same time. Right, so I've just been killed. That was my own fault though, not paying attention. Got to say, the enemy's bullets, the darts, they're quite hard to see on some of the backgrounds and the brick walls there. But as far as gameplay, I've done it again. As far as gameplay goes, I think this is a pretty good version. I'll put this second to the Master System version. Obviously, a lot of people will be shouting out saying that the PC Engine version was good, which it was. It was very close to the arcade, but I've never played that version. So yes, really, it seems to be the lack of music. This is this version's major downfall, which, you know, it's one of those things. Back in the day, we didn't always expect music in games, but you know, the SID chip was so great at reproducing some of these tracks. In fact, a lot of the time, arcade music sounded better via the SID chip than it did on an arcade board. Right, let's see if I can actually get on to the next stage, otherwise it's going to be a very short video. Yeah, the jump up onto the other levels, I don't know, it feels a little bit floaty, but other than that, the mechanics of the game feel very much like the arcade. There we go. On to the next section of level 1. Something else that appears to be missing is the ninjas that stick to the wall. If you remember on the original arcade game, they were, well, they looked pretty much like Spider-Man, which caused Sega a few legal problems later on. But you know, yeah, look, he's got the gun after he collects so many children. Right, let's give it another try because I didn't get very far there. I've got to say, I'm not that great at the arcade game, but I can certainly get through the first few missions without losing a life, which isn't proving to be the case here, so it's quite hard. Maybe it's the enemy layout slightly different, and oh dear, yeah, not doing too well at all. But so, you know, where would I put this version against the other home micro versions? I think I'd put this top of the list. I'd say the Spectrum version wasn't bad. The player looked like he had a back complaint, like the main character. On the Amstrads, I don't know, to me it just didn't feel too great. I don't like that, how they're shooting through the boxes there. I don't think that would have happened on the arcade. The 16-bit home computer versions were awful, especially the Amiga version. It had this awful rendition of the arcade's music. It was badly sampled, badly looped. It really was really bad, and the graphics, you know, for the time were awful. I don't know if I'm going to get very far in this, proving rather hard, but yeah, basically I picked up a Commodore 64 probably a couple of months back now at a boot sale for £6. I'd never owned a Commodore 64 before. I was always a Spectrum boy, then I went on to the Amiga. Previous to that I'd had an Atari 2600. But yeah, 8-bit wise I was, you know, strictly Spectrum. But you know, and back in the day I used to slag the machine off something chronic to my friends at school. But yeah, it's a decent computer. Obviously it's got its strengths and weaknesses like any system out there. The main strength of course is the music. The colour on it's pretty good. The graphics can be a bit blocky, and the tape loading, a lot of the games seem to take a lot longer than they would have done on the Spectrum. I think the average really for this is about 7 or 8 minutes, whereas a lot of Spectrum games loaded in 2 or 3 minutes. And also a lot of the games on this are multi-load, where I had a 1 to 8K Spectrum. I was used to a lot of games loading up in one load. So this has just taken nearly 8 minutes to load up, and it's a multi-load. I'm actually using my iPhone to load games up at the moment. Not all games, but the copy I've got of this on tape refuses to load via the data set. Oh dear, I'm going to die. Oh. Let's give it another go. I always did have problems with this section on the arcade, but I'm doing exceptionally bad. Anyway guys, thanks for joining me. That was Shinobi on a C64. Good game. Give it a try if you get the chance. Cheers.